like I'm familiar
Me
with a
either.
lot.
I don't know shit about it. I've been playing Red Dead lately, so I mean, there's that. But I don't.
I saw people feel like Red Dead 2 didn't get enough attention.
Oh yeah, dude, it's a very underrated game. It's great.
Like Rockstar is so far up, uh, Five's ass. What is it?
Oh, GTA. Yeah,
Yeah, GTA Five's ass that none of their other games are getting the red carpet treatment.
that's true. Red Dead's such
But
a good game,
I
dude.
feel like they always put their A game into the Arkham series game. So
Oh, that Red Dead's been hits every time for me. And
yeah, we just went live on. I just got a Twitch notification.
okay, yeah, I like flipped it on. It wasn't wrong. Yeah. So now we're live on Twitch and now we're live on Facebook. Yeah. All right. So there's something that I want to preface. There's two things I want to talk about. One is the obvious thing. So we'll probably talk about that next, I guess. If it's up to us, I guess.
Come on, Brianna.
Yeah. And then number two, there's something that relates heavily to postmodernism that somebody literally 5 minutes before we started this stream brought to me, and it has blown my mind. My mind is blown. It's insane. You may even be familiar with it, but it has to do with George Washington's farewell address.
I'm not familiar with this.
Bro. It's very like prophetic and all this shit, but dude, this guy nails tribalism, nails postmodernism, but doesn't even say it, or Marxism or anything. And he nails all these things in this farewell address because, he said, "Hey, I've done enough. I'm gonna step down. We're gonna have somebody else be president because that's what we should do." And it was based on that shit. So that's kind of the premise. And dude, it's kind of freaky, bro. It's kind of whack.
One thing I noticed when you look at presidential history, a lot of our presidents were former military,
Right.
and we haven't had that in a long time. And I wonder if the change in our military budgeting and just the change of our military, if A, is it what we need, or B, would it be the same as it used to be as far as like, because it just seemed like, I mean, you can't really compare times anymore. It's so vastly different.
God, even from 10 years ago, and I know you know that. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, but I wonder what a highly military background president would look like today.
Why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor? I knew you'd catch that. Hey, but hey, Serge. Yeah, Serge, you nailed it. Why don't they? I don't really know that. What do you think?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
ridiculous.
right? Yeah. We don't play that shit anymore.
Yeah. That's just ridiculous.
All right. How do you want to step into Brianna? Here's what I did tonight. Did you see that post that I had updates going down the list?
I'm gonna start off with my unpopular opinion.
Go ahead. I'm gonna bring this up. Go ahead. I'm gonna
give the facts. The facts as I know them.
And then I'm gonna give facts of what happened tonight.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's all. Everyone knows. Most people know the name Breonna Taylor, and they know a summary of what happened. So the known information is that cops killed Breonna Taylor in her bed. That's pretty much what's known, and that no one's been arrested. So it was 3 plainclothes officers serving a no-knock warrant.
They weren't technically plainclothes. Listen. We need to figure something out, because if you say something, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but if I want to add something, how can we do this?
So, what I got is fairly quick. So
okay.
I'll love to be corrected. Obviously.
Go ahead.
All right. So, the no-knock warrant was issued for Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. They had access to the people who would be living in that address, so they knew Breonna Taylor could be there. They did knock on the door. The cops say that they announced themselves. The boyfriend, I wish I could think of his name right now, says that he did not hear them announce themselves as police, and neighbors have said that they did not hear them announce themselves as police. So the cops entered the residence. The boyfriend then shot at and hit one of the officers in the leg. At that point, the officer blindly fired 10 rounds into the apartment, shooting and killing Breonna Taylor, who was asleep in her bed. And since then, no arrests have been made, and that's why everyone is outraged. That's what when they say justice for Breonna Taylor, that's what they want. But here's what has happened: no knock warrants are now off the table in Louisville. It is no longer a thing in Louisville. I believe that is part of justice for Breonna Taylor. Unpopular opinion is protocol was mostly followed. Can we have a discussion about changing protocol like we did with the no-knock warrant? Absolutely. Is there something to be said for wildly shooting 10 shots? Absolutely. Once again, I think it comes back to police training. Today, there was indictments put out for the officer who fired, but it was 3 counts of wanton endangerment for the tenants or in the other apartment, because it was an apartment complex. So people are outraged because they feel like this is a slap in the face, that there's still no justice for Breonna Taylor, and that this is just a show. I feel like so that's the facts as I know them to be. And my unpopular opinion is it's going to be very hard to convict somebody of murder when there's no preconceived
malice. Just malice,
I
period.
don't feel like I got no sound on your end.
Oh, shit.
So that I think if you charge with murder, it's not going to stick. So obviously, I think you can do more than one endangerment. I think I'm not a law professor, but I think there's something there for a cop who blindly shoots 10 bullets. I'm not sure with criminal procedure for police officers in the firing of their weapons, but it is different than just a civilian going and firing wildly. Like, there's a different set of laws. We can have a discussion as to whether or not these laws need to change, but the fact of the matter is the laws are what they are. You can't just be mad about a situation and charge somebody for something because you think it should be. You have to change the law first. He's subject to the laws as they're written when it happens. That's my unpopular opinion.
Here's mine. Okay? So everything you said was accurate. And this is not like me trying to find some flaw. I'm saying that so I don't have to repeat it. The judge okay. Here's where I get iffy on things and things that are currently being investigated. So it's okay if I'm iffy because we're going to get the facts eventually. A judge signed a warrant with a potentially wrong address. There needs to be some protocol probably involved with that. I don't know how or what, maybe a more thorough investigation as far as trying to figure out where this guy is, something. I don't know. I don't have all the answers for anything. But that's...
When you say potentially wrong address, was that not his listed address?
No.
Okay.
So his listed address, I believe, was... I don't want to say that because I don't want to get it wrong. I'm not even going to speculate if that was what I heard or not. But, yeah, I know that, though. I know that it was the wrong one. Just period. So, and by the wrong one, I do mean potentially the right one, but we didn't know. We had no clue. Just so happened.
I'll address that after Tyler makes his points.
Was there? Okay. And then, okay, so you said that witnesses did not hear that the police announced themselves. In the redacted stuff that's been released, like the investigative stuff that's been released with the guy that just got indicted, Witnesses did say, one witness, only one, said that he heard that they said LMPD open up or something to announce who they were. So that's in court documents now and being used as evidence. One thing I will say that I do disagree with is that protocol was fucking not fucking followed. There ain't a motherfucker on this earth that can look me I swear to God, if they exist, I want them to come over to my house. I want them to do it to my face. You can't say that blowing 10 rounds into a fucking apartment complex is anything near protocol. That's whack. Now, what I do think is that there was no malice involved. There was no predetermined shit. So the predetermined stuff kills the murder thing, and the malice kills the manslaughter thing. Those are like, you can look it up, KRS. You can look at the definition for murder in the state of Kentucky. It requires some premeditation, and the definition for manslaughter and
premeditation. That word was escaped.
Right. Well, premeditation is for the murder, and then malice is the term that's used whenever they're referring to the definition of manslaughter. I don't feel like you can. I just don't. They would have to really dig to find something like that, and I don't think that basis is there. I do agree. Right. I do agree with you probably that maybe something more, but again, I'm not fluent in law. I 100%
agree that blindly firing 10 shots is against.
Hey, but do you think that? I'm not going to ask that. There's one more thing. And what? Yeah. So a police officer shoots into an apartment complex 10 times, and a civilian does the same thing. The civilian gets smashed, right?
Well, I mean, and we all saw that video not too long ago where a man answered the door.
Yep.
To a knox. Answered with his gun lowered at his side, finger off the trigger. Saw that it was police. Immediately went down with his hand up, went to go put his gun down. Pop, 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 got shot.
Right. Listen, but check it. Guess who gets held accountable for that shit? The whole department's protocol, which is trash to begin with. So thanks, qualified immunity. That shit needs to go. It needs to be out of here. These police. Listen,
I don't think that we need to completely get rid of it, but I think it needs an extreme revision.
Dude, I think that shit needs to fuck right off. If everybody, listen, accountability, if all police officers are held accountable to the protocol that everyone else has learned, then I don't see how we can get befuddled in what to do in this situation. Right. In situations like a no-knock raid, every single emergency management, every single emergency service in Kentucky has a formal plan of, I wish that I could remember the name of it. It's like a formal contingency plan, legitimately. It's like got level 1. We go in and everything's gravy. Something happens, a variable doesn't click well, we go to level 2. They all have this. Every single one has it. And I just don't see how, if we've got all that stuff and we're doing all that and we're following all this protocol, that we can blanket this over onto the entire department. One thing I will say, and then I'll let you go, Alex, is that qualified immunity, I think, is being dismantled. And we're seeing it with this guy being held accountable for what he did. And whether people want to think that that's qualified immunity being pulled out or not, that case right there this is going to set a precedent for what happens in the future, period, on the reform on LMPD and probably comprehensive reform in Kentucky for police officers. But I think we've set a precedent today. Go ahead.
All right, so I just want to address, there's a lot of misinformation surrounding police officer training.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it takes X amount of time to do this, but it's like, people are saying it takes like 16 weeks or 21 weeks or something for a police officer to go through training. That's not the case. So it's 21 weeks until they hit the street with a partner. And they're still on this like lower rung, like they're in training, but like on the field training. It takes 2 years of ride-alongs before a police officer is able to go out by themselves and do police work.
Right.
It's 2 years. Okay. Do we need more in-depth training on what to do in crisis management, stuff like that? Absolutely. Do we need to hold our cops more accountable when they do not follow protocol? Absolutely. But the way to not get that done is the continuation, and Michelle, I'm not saying you are, is the spreading of this misinformation we see through memes on Facebook and such like that, where it's like it takes 21 weeks for a cop to become a cop, and blah 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 years for this to happen, blah 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 blah. Like that's not productive to conversation. It's not productive to getting anything done. All it's productive to is creating more division and more anger and more misinformation, which
Right.
leads to all of that. So yes, there is extensive training. Um, I think there could be more. Absolutely.
Um,
Uh,
I
I'm not sure about how dummy popping up training goes like that. I'd say every unit has their own way of doing it. I
they
think
do.
usually probably has something to do. Um, like I think there's probably some course exercises in basic training, cop training,
There is.
but it's not like Modern Warfare where you walk through and boom pops
Right.
up. Like most police departments don't have the kind of funding for that kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So it's usually the shooting range that they have.
Yep.
And also, I don't find it to be a fair. Um, uh, someone driving by Tyler's house, intending to murder him, and murdering me instead in the crossfire is not the same and not comparable to a police officer in the middle of a firefight hitting an innocent bystander. I don't think
That's
that's
true.
comparable.
Something I have to say. Whenever the George Floyd incident happened, I reached out to every police officer that I call a friend or can speak with. One is actually a chief of police, not going to say where. One is was a sheriff's deputy. Now he's on a city, like a city police department. And then a couple others are Metro Police. There's two others that I spoke with that are Metro Police. Every single one had the same thing to say. First off, let's get it out of the way. They said that the Derek Chauvin incident wasn't necessarily a malice, a break of protocol filled with malice, but it was a break of protocol. You just can't do that. 8 minutes, that's crazy. They all said it. Every single one of them. The chief said it too. And he's a very respectful man, and he would pull over and help anybody regardless of skin color. He is not in this. He's not in the debate of whether or not a cop is racist. He's not in that. Just can't apply it to him. Every single one also very, very repeatedly told about how Kentucky, and I've said this before on the podcast, has a very, very Wesley has a very, very comprehensive training program, much more comprehensive than a lot of the states in the U.S. I think that the chief that was talking to me, I think he said that it was somewhere like some percentage between 30 and 40% longer that you're in training. And when you go to training here in the state of Kentucky to be a licensed police officer, a licensed law enforcement officer, you go to, if you're on this side, the eastern side of Kentucky, you go to EKU and you stay there. You get boarded up into a dormitory with other people that are doing the same thing, that are training to get their certification, and you stay there for like I think it was 3 months or something like
Right.
that. What?
Is that state or city or both?
That's both state and city. So sheriff's department, you don't. But so there's that. Wesley, I'm gonna do that right now. Thanks.
So I mean, and when the George Floyd instance happened, and we've said this before, the entire world was on the same page that police protocol needs to change.
Yep.
There needs to be more. People need to be held accountable,
They all said that. Every one of them.
and it's become an entire divisive racial thing.
Yep.
And are there merits to the racial question of black people being incarcerated at a higher rate and killed at a higher rate? Absolutely. But I feel like sometimes we conflate the two.
Yep. It's hard to get them mixed up whenever you've got people trying to just dismantle it and tribalize everything.
Well, I'm going to take Breonna Taylor's case in point. If someone's in bed asleep and it was 10 blind shots, how can you say that it was a racially charged killing?
True.
So that's where I start getting upset, and then the response is, of course, that I'm not allowed to have an opinion on it, usually because I'm white, and that makes me upset.
Gotta work with. It's gonna be a cop in Lexington. They actually have their own academy that you have to go through to be there, no matter if you've been a cop somewhere else for 25 years. That's a good idea.
Well, and that's another big issue is a lot of these instances of police brutality, of police misconduct, is you have police officers who are let go here and they go to another state or another jurisdiction and they immediately get hired
I know.
instead of their record following them.
I know of a person that has moved from one department to another now for that reason, and that's local.
Hmm. They get let go for one reason or another and they just pack up and move to another place.
Hey, they left you. They left where you're at, Michelle, and went somewhere else. Pretty also local. It's crazy. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I don't even know what to think about it.
So let's move on to the events that have unfolded today.
Okay. Well,
So
go ahead.
so far, of course, we've all seen the protests and riots around America. Portland, in particular, has just been ungodly, but they've been everywhere. We've been really lucky in Louisville so far to have very little injuries or bloodshed,
Right.
especially with. I mean, there's been 2 weekends in the past few months where the NFAC comes in and that brings in the three percenters, and like you just had this powder keg where I thought for sure last time NFAC came in, and all those three percenters and the Patriots and all these people getting together, I'm like, it's popping off.
No.
It's ugly. It's gonna be
It's
ugly.
it's
And
so
we've been
tense.
lucky for nothing to really happen. There was an instance where a couple members of the NFAC had discharged their weapons on accidentally and shot themselves, um, but we haven't had any malicious activity.
Right.
And today, will you hit us with what you know has happened today?
Okay.
Absolutely, Tina. We need a lot more mental health and a lot more crisis management.
Yes.
Crisis management
God.
for sure.
I feel like if they focused on that in training, just more, this needs to be the first resort. Which I'm sure they do that to a point. You know, they almost have to. But I feel like that is a great starting point, and it's something that everybody should be able to get on board with. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that being a cop comes with risk. It does, and you don't need to put yourself in more risk. But I think that does the opposite of that. I feel like if you can talk to somebody with some humanity, and not immediately resort to force of any kind, lethal or non, or verbal force, then things just escalate. I mean, everybody sees that every day. I don't think I was one minute killer. It's crazy to me that you can be a police officer, kill someone, shooting your gun around, and be like, "My bad." That's why I asked about target practice. I feel like police should be a better shot than that. Buddy,
Absolutely.
I don't think that him dumping 10 rounds into that house was him not being a good shot. I think he was just trying to just fucking stop whatever was happening, and that's shitty.
Yeah, there's instances where it's okay to lay down suppressive fire,
Right.
which I think is what he thought he was doing. But that's not what that was not the case. That was not the place.
And you know what? And I'm glad I can say this, whether or not it's the adequate punishment. Everybody else can argue about that shit. I am upset about the fact that the guy was in jail for 34 minutes, got his bail posted. I mean, I can be upset about that all day. I don't really feel like that's like him answering much, but he got convicted today. I don't know, man. That guy got convicted. It's so fucking important for everyone to realize that this investigation is not over with. It's not. It's still ongoing. That is so
And that's
important.
the problem with mob rule and groupthink and misinformation, and people saying it's been X amount of time and still no arrests have been made, and blah blah
Right.
blah. Blah. And moving even to what you said about bail being posted. So we have the judicial branch of government, and things are the way they are, and things take time. So when bail is questioned, it says this is the crime. is this person a flight risk, or upon release, is this person a danger to themselves or others? That's what gets asked. Now there are minimum bail set for different crimes
Right.
that it can be charged with, but as far as someone making bail, it doesn't. This police officer, this ex officer, whatever, doesn't pose risk to themselves or others, and and if the court doesn't find them to be a flight risk, then whatever bail got set and paying it is absolutely fine and well within the rights.
Yep. Agree. Because I mean, it's fact.
In my experience, someone who's been to jail multiple times, a 35-minute turnaround from being. So when you first get arrested, you get arrested by a police officer, and then you get brought to the county jail. Once you're in county jail, it usually takes quite a while to get processed. I mean, I've sat in processing for like 12, 16 hours and up, waiting to actually get all the paperwork done. And then you go to, and then usually bail is not set until the next day, and because bail is usually set in the mornings. But I would imagine with high profile cases such as this, things get expedited. So I don't think it's out of the question for, hey, everyone kind of being in contact from the police officer to the jail to the city government, and going, okay, we're making the arrest, and everyone is just on the same page. Like,
Right.
if everyone constant communication for every arrest, I would say that they would go more like that.
Right.
It's just this is a high profile case, and so everybody's getting involved immediately instead of, hey, he got charged with a DUI. They'll set bail in the morning. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's probably accurate because I've been arrested. I like had a bench warrant for some stupid fine or some shit. But I mean, I was booked within 20 minutes, probably. Like, gotten out of the car, start the timer, in the cell in 20 minutes, and then I was out in like 3 hours, you know, because I posted bail. But I don't know. I feel like you're right, Alex. Like, it's like the guy, you know, they probably walked the guy into jail, and he just probably sat in a certain place, and
He got in jail. He got his fingerprints, got his picture taken, got booked into the jail. Bail was immediately set after he was booked, and he was able to pay bail immediately.
well,
So
someone paid the bail.
Hyper speed.
Right. Someone paid the bail, but they haven't released who or whatever. I don't know why they would do that. That's just gonna stir up more shit. So I would really hope that they don't do that. I don't know. Whatever. Important to note. I looked this up. First degree wanton endangerment is a Class D felony, punishable with fines of up to $10,000 and up to 5 years in prison. So he got three counts. What?
You know what the is?
What the minimum is? No, I looked that up and I couldn't find anything as far as minimums go. But that's the max. So it must have been 5,000 apiece.
If it doesn't get raised or lowered, and so here's the thing, usually you don't see raises, and so they usually overcharge someone and drop charges down.
Right.
That's usually the play, because it's very hard to charge higher.
Right.
So likely, like, this is a special case, this is different, but likely, if this was any other case, I would say there's no way he's getting more than what he's already been charged for.
Yeah.
In fact, it's almost guaranteed that it'll come down,
Right.
because they want to charge the highest thing they can to get the indictment to roll through.
Right.
For an indictment to get rolled through is like this. So I get charged with a crime. I'm automatically pled not guilty and then assessed as to whether or not I am a risk to myself and others and can maintain. And because remember, it's innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Right. So if I can make bail at that point, I'm on the street, and there's always something I have to do. When you're on bail, usually subject to drug tests. They call it pre-trial is what they call it. You're subject to drug tests. You're subject to some sort of monitoring usually, and you're subject to curfews and such like that. And then it goes before a grand jury, and a grand jury looks at the evidence they have currently, and they say, do we think we have enough here to go ahead with this charge? And they have X amount of time to indict said person on these charges. So once I have become indicted on these charges, I am now re-arrested booked again, bail can may or may not be set again. A lot of times they'll skip that and just continue the pretrial. In most cases, though, you're rearrested and a new bail is set. Once that happens, now we're setting trial. So I go for arraignment on the charges. I'm told what my charges are again, and we either settle outside of court or outside, or are we going to trial?
Right.
And so what's going to happen is the defense is going to say, now the defense can go up and say, well, this is what I got. You know what I mean? So this ain't going to fly. And they'll lower the charge and make it agree or whatnot. Or this, if the DA is adamant about the charge, let's go to trial. And once trial happens, everyone knows, of course, everybody's seen enough courtroom dramas to know how that shit goes.
Right.
But there's a long, long time between originally being charged with a crime and setting foot in a courtroom for trial.
Especially with cases like this that are under qualified immunity and high profile as fuck.
Yeah, and so with Class D felonies, I'm not for sure on wanton endangerment itself. There is, especially in the state of Kentucky, there's pretrial diversions that are possible. It's very likely this person, if that's the charge that they're going to get, is going to get nothing but they're going to get probation. That's what
Right.
End up getting.
And Michelle, no, and that's alleged, and no. If so, I think we would probably have seen something different, and we would have seen something that pertained to Breonna Taylor. Today, whenever they did announce the basically laid everything out, they didn't even say her name, other than referring to her as, like, I think they said BT. I think they actually initialed her name and said neighbors around BT, and then gave their initials too, and said that's what the charges were for. And that's what I saw on the live.
Tina brings up, COVID has been expediting a lot of things in the judiciary department as well, because they have inmate safety to worry about.
Right.
So what happened today?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up kind of and just kind of let it. I'm just gonna let it kind of play while I go down the timeline. It's very, very short.
I didn't know anything was going on until around 6 today, and I saw someone live streaming, and I saw roads being blocked off.
Yeah.
I saw, of course, protests happening.
Right.
It seemed peaceful from what I saw.
I watched. I think I was in and out, but I watched about almost 2 hours total. I probably watched an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. I tried to be able to stay here and, I don't know, just take it in. But pre curfew, I don't know. Let me like flip it over to the. We're gonna make this full screen because.
Yeah, and curfews meant bollocks this whole time anyway.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna also mute this. Boop. Well, not that. Okay. So this was some coverage brought to you by WDRB from Louisville. Alex and I actually grew up with, and Alex said he didn't know him, but now he does. We actually grew up with the guy that's doing this reporting right here. I consistently called it observational journalism because Dalton is very, very unbiased with what he says. He's laying out just what he's seeing, and that's the only way that I'm going to ever refer to this as is observational journalism. So I'm just going to play it in the background, just kind of let it run, so you guys can see, and give a little bit of a timeline, just a really small one. Will this show up here? It will. Okay, so I started watching around 5:30. I think he went live around then. At 5:46, 15 minutes after he was walking, Dalton was walking, I heard myself. I kind of laid out here just what I saw and what I observed. Police were repeating, "This is an unlawful protest," over loudspeakers that were on their armored vehicles. I wrote that down because I feel like that's pertinent. I don't understand how it was unlawful. Genuinely, no one there was engaging in any violence. As a matter of fact, just like you see in the other videos, if you've watched Portland protests or anything like that, there were a couple people that were actually telling people to get down off of these giant plow trucks that they were using for barricades. Some of the protesters that had loudspeakers were like, hey, get down off that. We're doing this peaceful. It's literally what they said. Uh,
And you'll always have opportunists.
right, right.
Just like the guy, when what we're seeing here, no one's given this guy recording a hard time, but a few people end up giving him a hard time.
Yeah, it's insane. That was
Yeah.
crazy. And knowing him, I genuinely like it's. This sounds like I'm reaching or being a pick me ass, but dude, I was like, yo, whoa, you gotta back up. You gotta get out of there if it's gonna be like that, dude, because you're not. He was not contributing to any bullshit. He was being a very legitimate reporter about all this stuff. I don't know. That made me really sad to see that happen. 546, they were saying unlawful protest. At 547, which was literally a minute after that, a crowd was formed around. Or there was a police line. I think I can actually probably just like show that.
There were
It's gonna be
two
hard.
separate protesting groups,
Oh, there were more. There were there. I think they
and
said.
they ended up merging.
I think Dalton said that they had reported 6 like from their helicopter that they've I don't know that 6 groups. He says several hundred is what he would estimate were there. So right here in what's being shown right here, this line was formed. Eventually, this line moves. There's a line behind it, kind of blocking off that side of the street. It moves closer into these armored vehicles, and a police officer is injured in some way, shape, or form after some sort of physical altercation. So it's not even been reported as to what happened to that officer. That officer is one of the 3 that have been injured tonight so far. And Alex, if you want to check while I'm running this to see if there's been any more, because who knows, Okay, so that happened at about 5:47. They're moving people now because I think they're going to start like crowding around some of the people that were there. Okay, so then at 5:52, Market Street got completely cleared out. That's a big street. That's a very important street in downtown Louisville. Was cleared out. Press and protesters were walled off from Market Street, and then Dalton ended up at the corner of 6th and Market. I just kind of documented that.
So suspect is in custody.
Of the shooting?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's
So second Louisville officer shot, suspect in custody.
send me a link, Alex, so I can pull it up.
And this is from WHIO TV7.
We'll get that up right here, right now, before we continue.
All right, there's your link.
All right. You want to read it? Go ahead. I'll scroll with you.
All right, so it says Louisville, Kentucky. This was posted, updated at 11:59, so literally like 13 minutes ago. Residents reacted with frustration and anger on Wednesday after Kentucky grand jury indicted former Louisville police detective involved in the March 13th shooting and death of 26-year-old Breonna Taylor. The 3 officers who fired their weapons at Taylor's home, Detective Brett Hankinson, Sergeant John Mattingly, and Detective Miles Cosgrove, were not indicted in Taylor's death. Hankinson, who was fired from the police department in June, was charged with 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment for shooting into Taylor's apartment from outside, endangering the lives of the 3 people in the apartments next door.
I've scrolled down here to the part. Scroll down on the post or the page. It's like not even a quarter of the way down. Update 1016. What?
It's weird how they have it set up.
Yeah, it is weird. LMPD Chief Robert Schroeder confirmed at a news conference that 2 officers were shot. Both officers were in stable condition. He did not reveal the officer's identity. Both officers are currently undergoing treatment at U of L Hospital. One of the officers is alert and stable. The other is in surgery and stable. Schroeder described both officers' injuries as non-life-threatening. Schroeder also said a suspect was in custody, but did not provide further details. Let's watch. You want to watch this? This little. This may be a news clip, or it may not be.
Let's check her. Let's check her out.
Oh, this is the person being arrested. Maybe. What the hell is going on? Oh, maybe this. Maybe that's the police chief who's walking up to. Yeah. Okay. So I guess that was just a little video of where he was walking up to give the rundown. D.C. protesters, St. Paul protesters, in Minnesota. Jesus, man.
But so all these protests. Here's what's scary about the protests to me: is this groupthink ideology that if we get enough people together to demand any certain thing, that if the government doesn't give in, then it's no longer government for the people. That's the ideology I'm starting to see.
Yeah.
So, and that's just not the way things work in this republic.
It's one thing. It really is one thing, and I'm by no means. I've been a very large advocate of not calling all the protesters rioters.
Yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely not.
but it's one thing to be in the streets for change and for attention to make a difference, and then there's another for like you said because the outcome is not what suffices. And
Well, and some of these, a lot of these protests, they lose sight of what they're protesting for.
right,
So look at Portland, for example. So it started out as, police, justice for George Floyd and all this stuff, which is getting his justice and all that. And then it becomes so many different things. Now they call them Black Lives Matter protests, and there's no real agenda to the protest.
right,
And now it's everything from anti-capitalism to anti gentrification, and it's all these. Whenever the protests are peaceful, super peaceful, and they're all about one thing, they call them Black Lives Matter protests. Whenever the protests become these row protests and crowds of 20 to 50, sometimes more, going and just causing a lot of nuisances, demanding people get out of their homes and give their homes away, just ridiculous stuff like that.
yeah,
They don't want to be associated with
right.
it.
Well,
And so,
who doesn't want to be associated with it?
the peaceful protesters or Black Lives Matter as a whole.
Okay.
And that's the problem with Black Lives Matter is it's an organization and it's also
A
a
move
calling card.
a movement, right? Is that
It's like Antifa, right?
right?
So there are actual Antifa branches where you can go and become an actual signed up member, but also anyone can claim Antifa.
Right.
And so now, how do you hold who you hold accountable and how do you hold
Right. Well,
and what end game?
the first thing that you can do to at least not perpetuate the bullshit, I'll tell you now, I don't even use the words Black Lives Matter in reference to a group of people. I just don't do that. Because
Well, and
it's
that's what the right wing media is doing. Black Lives Matter protesters did this. A group of Black Lives Matter protesters did
right.
this.
I call them rioters if they did something violent because that's what they're doing. And whether or not I think that's justified, we can leave that completely out of it. I mean, I genuinely don't, but I will say that I do just understand the aggression and the misunderstanding and not being able to uh, like materialize that. There's you feel helpless. It feels like there's nothing you could do. So I understand that yearning for some sort of initial or some sort of like physical thing now, but I don't understand how being violent in certain areas kind of promotes that. I don't. I've not really ever
Well,
aligned with
it's
that.
like when we saw with Occupy Wall Street. You got some very valid sentiments and ideals but you have no had no leadership,
The
and you had no
God.
clear cut, and so it just fell and ran amok and went nowhere.
Yeah.
And so one of two things is going to happen. I feel like either everything is just going to fizzle out and everything's going to go back to status quo, which is not what everyone wants, or it's going to be the opposite. We're going to continue to see no end game in sight, and it's just going to be mass hysteria
A third of the
for
a third of the
a
year,
time.
a third of the year this year has been spent. Um, a third of the year. There have been 100 days that have passed in the past, year since 2020 started that people have been protesting in states in states around the nation. 100 days. 100 days in Louisville. 100 and I think it was said 104 total in Louisville now that people were actively. Someone was out with a picket sign protesting 100 days in a row. And then I think in Portland we're past that. It's like 120. Like I don't even know how many. I don't know.
Well, and that's what I worry is. I feel like sometimes nothing's going to be enough.
Right.
So, take Louisville. They did away with no knock warrants. There is an investigation happening. People are being charged in the confines of the law as it's written.
Hey,
But,
to add
but
real.
whenever people feel like it's still not enough, is when will it ever be enough? So, even I feel like even if all three cops were mischarged with murder in the first degree, there would still be a lot who would still go out there and protest for the for what?
Right. I mean, I try to be really open minded with stuff like that, but I really think you're right. I mean, just by opportunists, and for what? Hell, I don't even fucking know. I don't even know what you could go for.
Well, and there's proof of busloads of people going around to these different protests just
Causing
just to
shit.
cause a scene. Just
Right.
and it's really it just got me going. When things are like that, what is it? How can we reconcile when there
Right.
seems to be no reconciliation on the table?
Right.
When you have people literally marching down the street going, "Come out of your homes, give your home away," or there's videos of people like in their windows, like raising their fist up, like, "Yes, we're with you." Bricks being thrown through their windows, like there's
People
no
telling people that if they don't raise their fist up, that they have to get up and leave that restaurant. Like
yeah,
they're
like
sitting outside. That's rough.
and it becomes increasingly hard to separate the people from the opportunists from the whole
Yep.
because you're seeing so much of it every day.
Yep.
And you see so many instances where, like you said, you have these very peaceful protests of people like, "Hey, don't do that, don't do that. You're gonna give us a bad name. You're gonna give us a bad name." But there's just so much anger and hatred, and they gotta have somewhere to direct that. And I
Right.
see it from the younger crowd is where I see it from.
Yeah. True.
I see it from the young liberal crowd who's stacked up to their necks in student debt because they got a degree worth bollocks. You know what I mean? I see it, cancel student. Like they're just mad at the world, like you are whenever you're 18 to 24 and 16,
Right.
and nowhere to point it out. And they're given the go ahead by the governments. They're being given the go ahead by the city.
That's the exact way that I feel about Kyle Rittenhouse. Right there.
Yeah.
He hasn't been
Well, you
rationalized.
have the opposite. You have the others who are seeing all this going on and being like, no one's doing anything about it. Someone's got to do something about this. I've
Right.
got to go do something about this because no one will. And so, not not doing anything. It's like Rush said: if you choose to do nothing, you still have made a choice.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and when Portland decided, no, no, just let them go, just let them get, we'll defund the police, everything's fine. Then we're going to continue to see more division on both sides. You're going to see citizens who are upset because their safety is not being accounted for, and you're going to see people going, "Oh, I can get away with this. I can get away with this. I
Right.
can get away with this."
Right.
and it goes further and further and further,
Wow, I can
and
be
they feel
seven.
like they rule the
And
city.
I'm not shitting on Kyle Rittenhouse. This is just a very pertinent example that weighs to both sides. But wow, I can be 17 and carry a rifle. That's my uncle's, and like, I don't know. It's all it sets bad precedents whenever people, especially, focus on that type of stuff. Both sides, especially now on this side, but in reactionary vision to the other side, to the right, to like the Kyle Rittenhouses. That I again, it's not even that I really think that his motives were to come kill people. I just think he was fucking
Well,
distraught with this shit, man, and
and it's
didn't
got
have a
me
rational
wondering.
person to bring him to fruition on his thought about it.
It's got me wondering. Would things have been more or less the same in the past had there been the connection we have through social media and various ways like we do now?
Probably
So
not.
take the night take the riots in the 90s. All right, you had them in certain cities here and there. Now you have protests for Breonna Taylor in California.
Right, literally,
You
right
have
now.
right. So because now all the local newses are national newses.
Right.
What if that had been the case back in the day? I feel like we would have seen a lot of. I don't think it's new stuff happening. I think it's just more out there, and everyone's hearing about it, and people are collectively, hey, you know what? Hey, they're doing something. We should do something about it too. I'm gonna organize a protest. I'm gonna organize a protest. We should have a protest over here for it.
Yep.
And so I don't. And like Tina said, there used to be wars and all these ways of getting our aggressions out and stuff, and wars are not the same as they
Whew.
used to be.
She said, "Now we're better informed." Damn. Are we though?
We we are much better informed, but at the same time, the more information comes in, the more misinformation comes in with it.
And that's
It's
what
like all
and that's what burns cities down is misinformation. So, are we better informed? I don't fucking
we
think so.
absolutely are
I don't
better
think
informed.
so.
Absolutely.
I don't think so. Don't think so.
Yeah. I
We're
just
better
like
informed.
a,
We are
we
people that
are
think
going
like
to
us.
access to more information.
Sure, but does everyone know that? Does everyone think, well, we have so much more access, but if I read this and I gain an opinion about this, is this really accurate info? So, better informed? Sure. Is this a thing that's better for society? Fuck no. That's why this is happening right here. That's why this right here is occurring. Not saying it.
Well, but
I'm not saying she's
well,
wrong. I'm just saying that that's it's that needs to be said.
oh, absolutely. Well, anytime we have this social media, we have all the internet and access to all this information. That's like opening the floodgates, and all the information is available, and that includes all the wrong information.
Right.
And
And hell, all the wrong information is shoved in your fucking face, man,
well,
constantly.
and that and the media is so biased, and they put a spin on all the news, and they're telling people how to think, and they're telling people you should be angry. This is why you should be angry, and it's just we are in such a dichotomy today.
So,
Would Okay, so would the next year, 2 years ago, had this not been an election year, what would the scale of these be?
right. What would the scale of the
I
media
have no doubt
coverage
we would
be?
still be seeing riots. I have no doubt we would still be seeing protests,
Right.
but I think it would be much more scaled down.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go through the rest of this. There's like three more things. Um, so what you're seeing is still. It's not live now, but it was a live feed earlier from WDRB in Louisville. Dalton Godby. This is his stream. Every time I've seen, I know the guy personally, so I may be a little biased, but every single time he's shared something or covered a story, it's been unbiased and objective as hell, and I'm with it 100%. And I love it. Okay, at 558 KSP, you could see them back in the background. It's kind of weird. It's kind of scary. But they like lined up in riot gear. They had just gotten there. So that happened at 558. He just saw them, kind of passed by and noticed them. So I asked him. I said because he would, he has a little bit more insight, a little more information because he's a journalist there, I asked him if he had any presence of the NFAC. He said that no further communication with the NFAC past the Churchill Downs rally, which is the one that they said they'd be back. That you've pointed out, Alex. That is a pretty rough one. No out of town groups that are known of at the moment. That's he very consistently said that that's speculation. Like he said that we know of. So who knows about that. But he did mention a quote by Grandmaster Jay that even you didn't even say, or you didn't bring to my attention, which was that this city is a priority. He kind of basically said the same thing, that they'd be back, but it's still a pretty, in my opinion, a chilling statement, to be honest. And I know you share the same feelings with that. 15
Well,
minutes.
luckily, I think that Grandmaster Jay and the NFAC has lost a lot of credibility with their original base. Well, from their last
So?
time in Louisville. Oh yeah, like there's always images of like the $60 Amazon gear he's wearing. So
Lol.
I've seen Grandmaster Jay to be the character he is rather than the military leader that he's portraying himself to be.
Okay. 15 minutes after I asked him about the NFAC, it came to a culmination of three different protesting groups. One from Bardstown Road, one from the Louisville and Market Street protesters, and then I think one was from one was a group that was already at Jefferson Square Park. That and this some I didn't write down and don't have here, but they renamed, you know, within the little community that's there, the protesters that are there, they renamed Jefferson Square Park. I think the Breeway for Breonna Taylor. Yeah, okay. So then here's another one. This is the last one. Okay, so Dalton was saying that when he was walking through, that there were nails and glass all over the road, and he's an unbiased reporter, and he was like, I don't know where this stuff came from. We were just walking through. A group of protesters did pass through, and then he walked back by that area, and he said that he didn't know where they came from. There's been no glass broken or no nails or anything like that he even saw. So those got spread on the road. He said they would surely damage tires from his standpoint.
So is see my original interpretation was this laid by the police to try to make it uncomfortable to walk on?
I
Or
don't.
was this made by protesters
I,
to try to make it for cop vehicles to have a hard time getting through?
right. I think that was even what, and like I said, he's a very unbiased reporter. That's kind of what he thought was the case, that the protesters left that there. Last little thing, 6:31 p.m. He ended shortly after. He was told to actually move back. I checked out WDRB. There was another guy that was there right beside him, that actually had a lot more viewers. So I think they kind of told Dalton to pull back and let the viewers go to that guy. But at 6:31 p.m., protesters were climbing on plow trucks used as barricades. Protesters proclaimed peace towards those people that were climbing on those, proceeded to try and remove. Okay, and this was insane to me. So there was a guy up on one of the plow trucks, and if you've got any remarks, Alex, give him right now, because I'm gonna find where they tried to smack the phone out of his hand and stuff.
Well, and that's what you see in the daytime. You see these peaceful protests, and as nighttime rolls in, you start seeing the opportunists arrive.
As the curfew hits,
You have the people who were protesting during the day, trying to stop the mad mob from destroying properties and hurting people. And too many times I've seen videos of protesters trying to stop rioters getting injured in the process, getting beat up in the process. Because the rioters, there's nothing they want other than to riot.
Disarray, yeah.
The protesters and the riots are two different people, but the problem is they're intermingled so much you can't tell the difference sometimes. And so I understand both sides there.
Yep.
I understand both sides completely.
Here's
And anybody and as you see them through here, anybody who does not want to be filmed there's a reason they don't want to be filmed. Anybody who's telling somebody, covering from a journalistic standpoint the protests,
Yeah.
you have to think, why would you not want coverage for
I,
the
I'm
thing
gonna,
that
I'm
you're
gonna be honest.
supposed to?
If I got out in front of people and was protesting something, I'm not saying that this is not worth protesting over. But if I was protesting something directly in my town, I probably
All the
I wouldn't. I'm not saying that they did not do anything wrong or that that them not. I wouldn't want my face on there. Wouldn't want it. Don't want it. Unless I was being a leader or something like that.
I
But
understand that because that's the whole point of protesting is to bring attention to the
yeah.
collective.
But you know what? You know what happens?
I-
You know what's going to happen to some of the? It's going to happen to some of these people that were on Dalton's live stream. They're going to get pointed out, and they're going to be called protesters or rioters. And I bet you $50, $50, people will. If somebody were to see somebody in this, and like know them or something, they'd be harassed. I would get messages. I know that I would if I was seen out somewhere.
Ask someone for protesting what they believe in, then
It's stupid,
shit on them.
right?
Like if
Agree.
there's something that if I'm going out to protest something I feel strongly about, anybody who wants to give me a hard time about it, like obviously I don't agree with their opinion. I don't give a shit.
Agree completely. But
I want as much attention thing that I'm protesting for.
I want
as
exactly. I want.
possible. Live streaming, bringing attention to the Breonna Taylor case in Louisville to turn your camera off is because I'm scared of getting caught doing something.
I don't know. I personally would do it for a different reason. I wouldn't want anybody putting my kids in danger because I'm out here fucking speaking my mind. I've had to block several people over this on Facebook because because I've been so vocal. There's two people that I have blocked because they've been vocal, and it's almost turned into harassment. One recently almost turned into stalking, and I'm not playing that fucking game. I'm not doing it.
Oh, yeah, screw that.
Yeah, it's just garbage. I don't know. It's not like I'm careful. I'm probably a little paranoid, to be honest. People are fucking crazy, dude. And the two people that I've dealt with that are nuts, I don't know. I don't want to know what they're capable of. I won't. Yeah. No. Fuck all that. I don't know. I guess it depends, Alex. To be honest, I don't know. Don't know what I would do. We'll see. I guess if it ever comes down to it.
I think people are hungry for the truth.
Some people are hungry to burn shit. I mean that. Here's where Dalton got got intimidated because it was intimidation. They're telling him right now to put his phone down. So what happened was what I heard, and I'm hearing it again now, is there's a guy right here standing, and then a guy stands in front of him, and then a guy comes around the back and he says, "You better put that phone up." And then he says, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do with that phone when I get it." And then it's mumbling after that. So he's basically just saying he's going to destroy Dalton's phone. Which that is fucked up. I wouldn't say that, you know.
Fucking camera down.
Another fear in these protests is the fact that emergency responders are not going to be able to get anywhere near you.
Right.
If something does pop off, you're kind of left to the will of the mob.
Which isn't a good one. It isn't a good will to be reliant on at all.
Now I had on the inverse, I saw a video the other day that did not go the way I think it was going to go. I saw a police officer trying to arrest somebody. The police officer looked like he needed more physical training, to be honest. The arrest was not going well. The guy was resisting very hardly, fighting back, punched an officer and stuff like that. Knocked the cop down, started to go away, and then the other members around him swarmed the person and got him down on the ground for the cop to make the arrest. And it did not look anywhere near it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, and I was so happy to be proven wrong.
Was it in a protest situation? What
It seemed to be, but I don't have all the context. I'll read the video and send it to you.
I'm gonna play this and I'm gonna let the sound go because you can hear them verbally talking to Dalton and saying stuff, and just from a third party standpoint that watches a lot of media and watches a lot of clips like this. I followed Portland protests down to the wire the first like week or so of it. But just professional as hell, man. I told him because I did speak with him a little bit, but I told him that I thought, well, for what it's worth, that he just maintained the most professional. I would have tried to over mitigate and tried to. He didn't say a word, man. He just moved his phone, backed up, shut up, and is it's crazy in the face of true intimidation in a lawless land right now. He just did it. It's crazy.
Put it down now.
He's saying that's not what we're trying to do. That guy standing on that barricade in the white shirt there.
Put the fucking camera down. When I do it, I'm gonna throw it. Make sure y'all right there.
So Dalton's being stood in front of, I feel like, to conceal the identity of that guy that was asking people to not be on the plow trucks. That's where apparently he tried to grab it and push it. Dalton lost service or something like that, and then it came back. This guy right here literally grabs this guy by the back and forcibly moves him in front of the camera.
Anybody get camera, take them off.
I'd be freaking out, dude.
Well, and that's what you're seeing here.
Hold on. So they're clapping now because that guy got them off of the thing. I think there's like the cameraman grab here in a second. So the guy got the people down. He walked off, and then that guy that was moving people in front of it and standing in front of it himself, he literally said, "You're good," and he ran off. That's it.
This is a prime example of the opportunists at these protests. So you've got this guy who comes in acting militant. You know, the main protesters are worried about not getting their message, not getting division in their message by trying to keep it a peaceful protest and stuff like that. And this guy comes in gung ho. You know, he's obviously one of the ACOBs. He's obviously, you know, probably calls himself Antifa or whatever. I found somebody I'm going to try to get some power over. I'm going to try to intimidate. You know what I mean? I'm here because I think I'm the protector of everybody in this city, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do with any violent means necessary. And that's the mindset I stepped in here today with, is I'm going to be the guy who's violent whenever I think I need to be. And you get bullshit like this happening.
Right.
You know, just looking for any instance whatsoever to become aggressive.
Right. And out of the guise of policing this for the civilians.
Right. Yeah.
That's not.
And then what happens when you get 50 of them together?
Right. They're all infighting. That's what happens immediately.
That's when it becomes dangerous for everyone involved, and that's when they they go around looking for something to lash out at.
Yep.
And that's what you see in Portland today.
Yep.
You know.
And maybe
Because Portland
Louisville tonight.
Let them protest every day as long as possible. Let them do what they want. And so they're going around to restaurants, harassing people in restaurants. They're going into the suburbs, harassing people in their homes. You know, for people like that guy, there's no end game.
Nope. Nope.
So we've been doing a really cool exercise um, at school about what is truth, and immediately my mind goes to all these people talking about living their truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's living her truth, sister. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I hate that shit because in my mind,
Her truth.
there's all there is the truth.
Yeah, like one.
Yeah. And so the thing I've been bringing to the table is because the idea behind different truths and people's lived experiences becoming their truth is I believe you have the truth and you have people's experience with the truth, and they think that becomes their truth and becomes truth, but it's not. It's just my experience living around the truth.
Right.
So I've heard there's some great stuff. Uh, unless if you had something else to add about the protesters.
No. What I am gonna do is while we're sitting here, I'm just gonna leave this up. If you're watching, what you're seeing at the bottom is a Riot Heart feed, just live of the riots or whatever's going on. Sorry that I said riots. Didn't mean to say that. That's what the headline says. But yeah. You can look at that while we're sitting here.
So truth is not simply whatever works. It's a philosophy of pragmatism, an ends versus means type approach, when in reality, lies can appear to work, but they are still lies and not the truth. And I think that's a great way of putting it because look at the Breonna Taylor case. So lies could work. You could arrest this officer or these officers for murder and charge them with murder, but it's not the truth.
Right.
And we as a population and as a republic, we should do everything possible to seek truth, no matter how ugly it is or how uncomfortable it is.
Right.
Truth is also not simply what is coherent or understandable. A group of people can get together based on a set of falsehoods where they all agree, and it does not make their presentation true. I see that with a lot of these riots. When you hear people saying, just listen to XYZ people, you know what I mean? You're not even listening to them. Just because 500 people get together and chant the same thing does not mean that they're speaking the truth.
Right.
And of course, the inverse is always by the inverse operation. Just because a group of people are saying it doesn't mean it's not true either. Truth is not what the majority say is true. 51% of the group can reach a wrong conclusion. Truth is not what is comprehensive. A lengthy, detailed presentation can still result in false conclusions. So just because you saw a TED Talk on it, doesn't mean it's the truth.
Right.
And I love TED Talks.
Same.
I love TED Talks. Truth is not defined by what is intended. Good intentions can still be wrong. Truth is not how we know. Truth is what we know. Truth is not simply what is believed. A lie believed is still a lie. The truth is not what is publicly proved. A truth can be privately known. I find that stuff extremely powerful.
There's a on the live feed right now. There's a person that's like telling this streamer that they're gonna kill him tomorrow. What's going on that?
That's people looking. They're just looking for a way to harass, intimidate, bully. People are angry and they have nothing going on, and they get out here and it's a good time for them to go and let their baser instincts out.
Well, the guy was talking to Riot Heart, which is like a liberal, like it's not really that they're liberal, but they've been to most of the protests in Louisville, and then they have some people that are in Portland too. The guy was like not a liberal viewing person. I don't want to say a right winger because I don't want to be general on it, but the guy wasn't a Democrat.
Well, and that's the problem with the world is like if you say, oh, they're not a Democrat, then they must be a Republican.
Right.
Or if you say that Republican, then they must be a Democrat.
I don't
Like
even I don't even know what he was, but
people aren't allowed to live in the middle anymore.
right.
People aren't allowed to have views on both sides anymore.
No. If you don't tribalize yourself, people will tribalize you or attempt to for you. It's great.
I was having a discussion with someone about Ruth Radar Grimsley.
Holy shit! You just butchered the shit out of that.
How's her name?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ginsburg. Sorry, but talking about obviously Trump's going to be appointing somebody, which is what he's supposed to do. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care. And I said, they said, well, Ruth's final wishes were for that not to be filled until the next president. And I'm like, well, here's Ruth. Here's Ruth back in 2016 saying that a president in their final year is still a president.
Right.
And they said, well, here's what's his name? Who's that real religious family? Graham, Lindsey Graham. Here's Lindsey Graham being, here's what he said in 2016. Here's what he's saying now. This is two hypocrites don't cancel each other out.
Right. Wow.
And he tried to call me a Republican about something. I said, here's the thing. I said, I'm registered Democrat. I said, but I take things case by case basis.
Right.
I
Wow.
consider myself an interest, and just because I say something negative or perceived to be negative about someone on your side doesn't necessarily mean I'm lying with the enemy either. Or on your side. I'm on neither.
The enemy.
side.
It's crazy. It's crazy you have to use that terminology because that's right.
Yeah.
They think it's the enemy, the other
Anytime
side.
you disagree with someone about anything, if I disagree with someone on the left, automatically I must support Trump.
Right. I had somebody say tonight. This was a mind fuck. I had somebody say tonight that they think that that the Louisville Police Department should hire more black people. I said, man, we need to hire on merit, not the color of your skin. And he was like, well, I just think that would fix it. That's my opinion. I was like, well, it won't. That's facts. So
Yeah.
there's that.
So we should always strive for opportunity. We should always opportunity. Not what is it? We don't want outcome, right? We want opportunity.
Right. That's what you're saying.
That's what we should always strive for.
The equal
Equality.
opportunity? Like,
Yeah. We should always strive for equality of opportunity.
right. Agreed.
Is what we need to strive for.
Yep.
Because equality of outcome is not equality.
Right.
It's called equity.
I was like, look, man, you're getting real close to what I hate the most.
And
Which is-
equity is akin to, with equity comes loss of rights and freedoms.
Right. Well, equity. Whatever the fuck you want to call that
Equity
postmodern
is-
bullshit.
Equity is- yeah.
Intersectional equity.
Well, once you start equity and intersectionality, there's no end.
Right.
There's no end.
Intersectional equity. Once you get there, you're fucked. And that's
Yeah.
and
So if I have a panel with 5 people on it, okay, and I can have a black and a white, which they would never allow that,
Right.
a Latino, a gay, and a trans. Someone's gonna say, well, where's representation for the black trans? Or and then
Latinx, ain't that what they
right,
call them?
or now we need lesbian trans, or we need every possible configuration of every race, every sexual orientation,
Right.
every gender, and every religion. So when you start mingling those, you create an unsatiable appetite for inclusion. And that's what it is. You will never include enough because there's always going to be someone like, well, what about this person? And then you have to get all those types of people across all groups of thinking. And the problem is you can't box human beings in. And we talk about wanting to be individuals, but we try to put ourselves in boxes more and more every day.
Right.
And so we say things like, I don't speak for all whites, or he doesn't speak for all blacks, but then we want someone up there to speak for all of the
Right.
intersection that they fit into,
Right.
and it's just, we are backpedaling as a society
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes to, we are backpedaling big time when it comes to equality, big
Um.
time.
Listen, intersectionality, and the need for it, for more and more and more and more and more. I don't know how this applies, but this when what you were saying kind of made me think about this. Like when people say that religion doesn't need to be in school, right? But then Christians will be like, well, we need God in school. But then other people are like, well, what about Islam in school? Like just randomly. Like they have to. That's like a. You see what I'm saying? You see how I'm relating stuff? Oh Jesus Christ! Do you see? You see kind of what I'm saying? Like that's almost like a hybrid, like back. It's like a backwards intersectionality thing. Like, well, if you're going to include this, then you might want to include this, and that'll
I
never.
wish, I wish it was called freedom from religion,
Lol.
because government should have no bearing on it.
No.
And it's things that were a given 10 years ago are starting to be questioned and starting to be like, if you want a non-secular upbringing of your children, homeschool,
Right. Have to almost.
or put them in a private school.
Right. Which is mostly moded in beliefs that are akin to the area. In most, especially around here, boys, you ain't getting into no Montessori schools are literally based on like a Christian foundation. Not knocking it, but that's what we get in areas like this for sure. If I wanted to send my kids to a private school, I think that I would have to go to another county to even start to try to find something non-secular, or right? Is that the right term?
It's scary with a young kid thinking about, putting them in school with COVID going on and everything. Like, God, if this is what it looks like today, what's it going to look like 3 years from
I
now?
don't
Is
know.
COVID going to look like 3 years?
Dude,
Or
what? It's kind of a weird question, and we're just discussing. What do you think about your kid and your son and homeschooling or going to school?
so the big thing is the social aspect.
Right.
So one, do I have time to adequately homeschool my son? Not right. Absolutely not. I mean, one of us would just have to do it full time.
Right.
I just don't have time, to be honest. Two, the big thing is the social question. You know what I mean? Because he needs that. So he's gonna live in the world
Right.
as it is. So it's a matter of, do I want to protect him from social conditioning? But when I'm doing that, am I also being a hindrance to seeing the world as it is until he's 18 and he goes like, what is going on around me? You know what I
Right.
mean? Where if he went through school the whole time, like, he knows, oh, some people are like that, or people are like this, and like the more I try to protect him, the more I actually hurt him, I feel like.
Right.
But then it becomes a question of how much putting him out there is too much. So I think it's one of those questions all parents are going to struggle with.
Oh my
At the
God.
end of the day.
This
At the end of the
this
day,
generation better be thinking about that shit, dude.
I think what me and my son's mother have talked about is we are going to send him to public school and just be as involved as possible.
Right.
So, every time there's a field trip, one of us can chaperone, and volunteer for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Be involved in parent-teacher conferences, PTA,
Right.
uh, voting for board members, finding out, curriculums and stuff like that.
Right.
What did you actually learn at school today? Oh, nothing. Okay, well, let me see your assignments.
Right. I think that's what we will end up doing. But man, I've asked a lot of people that are homeschooled, a lot of people that I know that are socially. There's a few that are socially inept, that are adults now, that were homeschooled. I also think that what I see a pattern in with those people is that their parents sorry if you hear this and you know that I'm speaking about you, because the people that do, there is like two that listen to this, and their parents are fucking crazy. Their parents shelter the fuck out of them, and they can't even be individuals. It's like they got to 17, and their parents were like, "All right, fucker, see ya." They're like, "I've sheltered the shit out of you your whole life. Have fun." Um, I think, like I said,
Well,
I think I'll end up going. I think we'll end up doing maybe what you guys are doing, but
and another problem with homeschooling is that means that I'm not going to be introducing my son into any other ideas than the ones I already possess or I come in contact with.
right.
And that's not fair because
Well,
I don't know why it is that, like, all of us can agree that we want better for our children and that we want what's best for them. Until it comes in direct combat with the way we view the world.
here's where I'm at right now. I'm homeschooling the fuck out of both of my kids. Just gonna do it. I'm going to equip them with the knowledge and tools to be able to do this shit for themselves. To be able to learn stuff like that for themselves. I'm not gonna be like, Trump's a piece of shit. I mean, obviously not, because my son's 3, but I'm going to try my best in this pursuit of knowledge and truth that we're in right now, you and I. And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm speaking for you and I. Um, I've got to be able to speak to people, period, without the attempt of indoctrination, period. I've got to be able. What I've noticed myself doing is reaching out to people and being like, look, man, I'm not saying that your opinions are wrong and shit. I'm not saying that. I want you to be it's not even that I want you to, but you can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. But let's be on the same page of where we're gonna like the steps that we take to reach these conclusions and these opinions, and that general broad mindset is what not only schools should do, period, but what I'm going to probably do to my kids as of this second. Who knows? But
Well, and I think that's where a lot of. So you think about, we've all had internet arguments, obviously, being you probably more than most.
two today,
You have the truth and you have the facts,
right?
and then you have your opinion on them. And I'm not going to change anybody's opinion about the facts.
Right.
So once two people of different points of view have the correct facts, but we still disagree on the righteousness one way or the other of it, no longer is it a matter of me bringing sources forward. We just disagree.
Right.
And that's what you see in the news. So you have the truth, you have integrity and journalism of just providing the news, which is hard to come by now. Think BBC, used to be Al Jazeera. BBC's pretty centrist. They pretty much bring the facts.
The other meaning for BBC.
And then so they go right or left, and they go, is it more opinion based? How much of it is fact based? And then you have analysis on it. So, which can be very scary, but can also be very beneficial.
Oh yeah.
So we can all agree on the truth of what happened, but our analysis thereof, the implications, we aren't going to agree on. So you take a pro-lifer and you take a pro-choicer. They agree on the facts of the matter. They can agree on how many abortions get done a year or whatever, but you're never going to change the other one's mind about whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
And because of that, you run into a stalemate.
That's a bad. It's a
one
bad stalemate
side-
too, like a really bad one.
And I'm just using abortion as a example. So this is for all political views across the board. Whoever has current administration, whatever the current laws are, is going to be pleasing to one or the other, and the other one, after seeing, they don't know what to do except get angry. take abortion again with the heartbeat bills and stuff like that. Imagine, if you would, if abortion was free and legal and as quick and easy as a breast reduction surgery. What do you think the pro-lifers would do? You would see more and more extremism. Imagine the inverse. Imagine it was impossible to get an abortion. What would you see? You would see more and more illegal procedures being done.
Right.
So that's...
Hey, you know what? You know what kind of relates to that? I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking about how to throw this in there. Keep going. I'm going to go find it. Keep going. Sorry.
That's where we're at in this world, I feel like. We're at a time when facts are easily accessible. Yes, there's a lot of misinformation about, but now that all the facts are on the table, and there's more than just one news source telling us what to think and how to think, or how to view the facts, now everyone has more of an opinion on everything out there.
Right.
You think about it, if you're raised by nothing but your parents, you pretty much have the opinions your parents have on those issues. Once you come into contact with other ideals and ideas and points of view on how to interpret the facts, now you start rounding out, oh, I believe this, and I believe that, and I believe this.
Yep.
So we live in an age where every issue is a hot button issue. We live in an age where everything is polarized. And it's due to free flowing information.
And disenfranchisement. Both.
And I don't see reconciliation happening. I don't see how with more information and more, I don't see happy endings around the corner. I don't see how people can reconcile more and more divergent opinions and becoming entrenched and becoming adamant, more and more adamant. Like it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but with this good thing, we're getting negative results. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
It's good that we can be more informed, and it's good that I can have well-rounded opinions on everything. But because of that, people are losing sight that that's what it is. It's their opinion.
Right.
People don't know how to lose.
Right. Don't know how to concede. And just be like I'm wrong.
The art of give and take, because that's what politics is.
Yeah, truly.
Government is. It's, and when you look at when the Constitution was written, you had the Federalists. Obviously, the Articles government didn't work because the government had no power. They couldn't pay taxes. They couldn't form military. States had the right to just form treaties with other nations and stuff. So it was really just a bunch of nations that lived on a plot of land together.
Right.
So when the Constitution was drafted, now all of a sudden, all these states have to get together and be like, well, I believe this and I believe that. And the Constitution was them going give and take.
Right.
So,
right.
For instance, like, and I'm not even going to address the fact that slavery is obviously abhorrent and ridiculous, but for the sake of what we're talking about. So some states, when it came to the fact of, well, how many representatives am I going to have in Congress? You know, the states with fewer populations, they wanted what? They wanted to have an equal amount of representatives from each state, so that the states with a larger representation wouldn't rule everything, much like we have today with the electoral colleges. The agreement between the two was, okay, let's make it a bicameral. Okay, so that both, so the House of Representatives, everybody's getting 2, right? And Congress is based on population.
Right.
So that was the middle ground. And then it became, okay, well, how do we count these people? Because they had slavery. Okay, and the compromise was what? The 3/5. Still abhorrent. It's sick and disgusting, but the compromise is what I'm looking at. The compromise in between. We're not seeing that anymore. We're not seeing people reach across the aisle to make compromises.
This live streamer is getting his camera taken by a Louisville police officer. Right. Okay, listen. I keep saying Ryder. His name. This Facebook page is called Riot Heart. This is what he does. He's getting arrested.
4?
I'm not sure. Curfew.
Curfew.
I mean curfew at this point. Yeah, they were walking people in, just arresting. I think I saw maybe like 5 or 6. Yeah, I believe he's being arrested. Let's listen.
I'm gonna mute myself.
He's searching him right now.
April 5th, 1989. Okay, you got it.
We need to not. I don't want to put his info out.
You know you had it?
I paid a lawyer $2,000 like 3 years ago to.
So you don't pay lawyers. So you don't pay lawyers out there on the court. It's ARP.
He must have had a weapon on him or something. Just a black screen right now. Just talking descriptive.
Don't put the light in your mouth. It's an EV, sir. Sure. And the date of birth was. What was the date of birth again?
I don't want to put that on this.
Did you buy it? You ready to move it?
Nah, friends would drop me some food.
Ooh, social. It's a Facebook group called Riot Heart.
We're going to take this off once we get you in there and everything. Put it in properly, alright? Okay. Come on, yes, that's showing you got a wheel. My stack. It's actually a peel in your pants.
Yeah. Marijuana and a firearm. Because I'm a bartender and I pop money in the ATM at $4 in the morning.
Don't blame you for getting firearm on you.
Had a firearm and marijuana on him.
I thought about this 2 days ago. I was like, man, I really hope that got taken care of.
Yeah, as you can see right here, it says active.
What is this is Riot Heart?
Yeah, Riot Heart is the name
He's
of
the
it.
one getting that. What is someone who's supposed to be going out there for journalism doing packing heat?
I don't know. If I was out there, I'd be packing too. I don't know.
Not if I was out there as a journalist.
I would. Am I right?
I mean, I see it, but I just.
I'm not questioning why he's got a fucking gun, dude. He's a fucking American. He can have a gun. He's in Kentucky. He's not breaking law.
Definitely wasn't smart bringing the weed, though.
Yeah, that was stupid. Jesus Christ, idiot. All right, we'll stop listening. I don't know what's going on. The black screen. So.
I'm sure we'll have more information tomorrow, but
Yeah.
luckily it's 1 a.m.
Yes.
I think they usually end up ending around 4 a.m. The riots,
Right.
in the other cities at least. So if we made it to 1 and nothing's super popped off yet, I think it's safe to say that we're not going to see anything big come out, which is good.
Yeah.
And here's
well,
what's sad.
Big, past the injured police officers. That.
This is me looking inward when I start watching riot news and stuff like that. It's like I'm glued to the screen, just can't wait for something to happen. I want to see something big happen.
Everybody does, man.
Yeah, but that's not good. And that's me personally. That's me recognizing that, like, we're so used to seeing these action movies and stuff, and like we want to see things pop off, and then we want to get outraged afterwards. Isn't that funny?
I'm trying to, man. I genuinely really don't think that I'm like that. I think when I see live stuff like this, okay, Jason doesn't scare me, Freddy doesn't scare me, fucking all this other crazy shit doesn't scare me in the least, or doesn't, the stuff that's moded to scare you, spooky. No, this shit scares me, legitimately to my core, legit. There's this, and then like scary hacking stuff, that shit scares me, like Tor and Darknet. This shit scares me just like that. It just scares me.
Well, what's scary is when is this going to come to my neighborhood?
Right. That's why.
Because I mean, it's all well and good whenever it's an hour away, but what happens whenever the threats of we're coming to the rural area start? Because you bet your ass when when things like that start happening in rural America, there will be casualties.
I think that if it starts here, I don't think it'll be anybody associated with that group. I really don't. The violence I see going on around here is towards people that feel disenfranchised, that are younger, that want to get out, want to hold a sign up in the middle of Crab Orchard. You know, a town that's got what, Alex? Like 5,000 people tops or some shit? I don't even know. Maybe not.
I think that's a pretty
Yeah.
liberal
Right.
number too.
And, you know, people riding by screaming racist shit at them, waving guns at them. And the person that told me this shit did not make it up. They don't make that shit up. And I'd believe them.
I've seen that. That's the thing is racism is alive and well in America.
Yep.
Around the world.
Yeah,
Racism alive.
for sure. And I would almost argue more so maybe in other countries than here. Truly. Seriously. There's people getting their fucking heads chopped off for having sex with people that are darker colored skin right now. And then also people getting their heads chopped off for believing in a different... It's fucked up, man.
There's people getting their heads chopped off for
Being gay.
being in the wrong area.
True. Yeah. Fuck.
There are entire countries that are ruled by gangs.
Yeah. You know, there's one right below us.
So I mean, we should always be looking to move forward and become better people.
And
better
unify.
citizens.
We have so much
But-
more in common than we do different, dude.
But we're getting more and more divided every day.
Because we get them likes, bro. We gotta get them likes up. It's fucked, man. I hate it. Good. Hey, good note to end on. You agree?
Fight the good fight, ladies and gentlemen.
Fight the good fight. You know how it is. You know what it do every time you come up in this live. That's what we doing. That's what we do.
As always, I'm welcome to any messages or comments or anything, especially if you notice me spreading misinformation.
Liar.
Please tell me. I will redact it on the next show. I will say, yes, I was wrong about this or that.
If you're watching us live, you can catch all past episodes on like any podcast platform you could ever imagine. Spotify. I used to use Castbox. I don't use it anymore. I just use Google Podcasts on my Android device now. How about that? Yeah, so you can catch any past episodes on all podcast platforms. And again, thanks everybody for listening. And you want to go? Let's go through the list of people that were here talking because we really appreciate you guys. Michelle, thanks for like being consistently here. You've been here like quite a few podcasts, to be honest. We appreciate
Welcome,
you.
new listener Tina.
Yeah, welcome to you, Tina.
Smiley was here at the beginning, and my boy Joe Payne, and of course Turkey Sage.
Turkey Sage is a moderator. He's the one on the back lines, helping us fight ignorance in the comments. Oh gosh. But nothing will ever be censored. We do not play that unless you're just being racist or any of that shit. We rip that right off. But we're welcome for anybody's opinion on any of these podcasts. Please, if you have a differing opinion, me and Alex would chomp at the bit for that. So,
News on the next panel podcast.
I'm gonna assume that it's not happening this month. Lol. But definitely October. I swear to God, if I don't have a date and a time by the 1st of October, I'll do something embarrassing on the podcast. Hold myself accountable.
Anybody is welcome to apply to be on the panel podcast, and it's not like you have to have special criteria to get on.
Nope.
We just do a vetting process to make sure you're not getting on there just to be a jerk or some shit.
Right. And not to be threatening, but God help us if you get on there and act stupid. I can make that end like that. So, sorry.
Well, please, we want as many differing views as
Yes.
possible on these people.
We kind of had a little
We
bit of an
don't-
echo chamber last time, and it was kind of got awkward. Not really awkward. It was a good time. A few of us talked for quite a while, like 3.5 hours or something. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you guys.